Growing older is a gift. Every wrinkle, every story, every laugh line, we've earned them. But let me share a truth that took me a while to accept. Sometimes as we age, we pick up little habits, not out of malice, not even on purpose, but habits that slowly, quietly begin to push people away. And we don't even know it's happening. That's what today is about. This isn't a list of shame or embarrass anyone. This is a gentle conversation. Elder to elder, friend to friend. We're shining a light on some behaviors that creep in over time, and we're going to talk about how to recognize them and shift them, because self-awareness is power. It keeps our relationships strong. It helps us show up with grace and dignity. And above all, it helps us keep connecting with the people we love. So let's take a deep breath, stay open, and walk through these 10 habits together. 1. Oversharing medical issues in social settings. One of the most common and often unconscious habits that begin to show up as we age is oversharing about our health. And let's be honest, it makes sense. When you're dealing with persistent pain, new diagnoses, medications, or frequent doctor visits, it's easy for those experiences to take up a lot of mental real estate. Naturally, they become part of your daily conversations. You might think you're just venting or updating a friend, but from the other side, it can quickly feel like the conversation has become a one-sided list of ailments. Younger people, especially, often don't know how to respond. They may feel helpless, uncomfortable, or even guilty that they're healthy. And others, even close family members, can begin to feel emotionally drained. Conversations begin to revolve around illness, symptoms, and test results, when all they really wanted was a light chat over coffee or a joyful family dinner. This isn't about keeping secrets or pretending everything's perfect. It's about balance. Sharing our experiences is essential, but so is being attuned to how much space those stories take up in the room. So what can you do instead? Start by observing how much you bring up your health in casual conversations. If it comes up frequently, try creating a boundary for yourself, maybe one brief update, and then pivot to something uplifting or interactive. You could say, still deal with my knees, but enough about me. How's work going? Or, I had some tests this week, but let's talk about your vacation plans. I want to hear all about them. Also, reserve in-depth health discussions for those who are close, emotionally ready, or have explicitly asked. And don't underestimate the power of therapy or support groups, places where you can fully share without burdening loved ones who may not be equipped to hold that weight. The goal isn't silence, it's connection. When you balance honesty with consideration, people lean in instead of pulling away. 2. Dominating conversations with back in my day. Let's talk about a phrase that's practically become a caricature of older generations. Back in my day. It's usually said with a mix of pride, nostalgia, and sometimes frustration at how the world has changed. And while it often comes from a place of wisdom or wanting to offer perspective, it can land very differently than intended. When this becomes a regular habit, comparing today's youth work ethic, culture, or technology to how things used to be, it can create a subtle but powerful wedge. It suggests that the past was better, and by contrast, the present and those living in it are somehow lesser. For someone younger, that can feel dismissive, invalidating, or like they're constantly under judgment. Nobody likes to feel like they're living in the shadow of an idealized past. When every conversation becomes a history lesson or a critique, people start tuning out. They might smile politely, but inside, they feel unseen. Instead, try using your stories to build bridges, not walls. There's nothing wrong with sharing life experiences. Just be mindful of your timing, tone, and intent. Ask yourself, is this story helping us connect? Or am I trying to make a point at their expense? A powerful shift is to share in the spirit of curiosity. For example, when I was starting out, we didn't have smartphones, so I'm really fascinated by how you use them for everything now. What's that like for you? That shows interest without dismissing their reality. Wisdom should invite, not lecture. When we speak with humility, our stories become gifts, not judgments. 3. Neglecting personal hygiene. This one can feel sensitive, even painful, but we have to talk about it, Because few things create quiet distance more quickly than poor hygiene, and often it's not about laziness or disrespect. It can be about fatigue, depression, forgetfulness, or the slow creep of complacency. Over time, brushing teeth becomes less regular. Showering is skipped more often. Clothes get worn longer than they should. Nails go untrimmed. We tell ourselves it doesn't matter, or we simply stop noticing. But others do. They smell it, they see it, and they feel awkward bringing it up. In many families, this becomes the unspoken tension in the room. Adult children may avoid hugging, visitors keep their distance, and friends make fewer plans. No one wants to hurt your feelings, but it's affecting how they experience your presence. This doesn't mean you need to look like a model or wear expensive cologne. It means caring enough about yourself and others to show up clean, fresh, and presentable. Not for vanity, but for dignity. Start with structure. Create a simple daily hygiene routine and stick to it, even when you don't feel like it. Keep comfortable, easy-to-wear clothes clean and within reach. If mobility is an issue, explore tools like long-handled sponges, shower chairs, or electric toothbrushes. If depression is a factor, and often is, don't face it alone. Talk to your doctor. You are not weak for asking for help. And if you're unsure, ask someone you trust. A sibling, a close friend, a doctor. Someone who will tell you the truth with love. Hygiene isn't just about looking good. It's a silent language that tells others, I care about myself and I respect our time together. 4. Being overly negative or critical of the younger generation. Every generation has looked at the one after it and scratched their heads. That's normal. But when it turns into constant criticism, they're entitled, they're soft, they don't know real work. It creates division, and it pushes younger people away emotionally. Sometimes these comments come from frustration, sometimes from fear. The world is changing fast, and it can feel like the values we were raised on are slipping away. But negativity is a poor substitute for understanding. It doesn't bring anyone closer. It just builds resentment. When young people hear constant judgment, they start seeing you as someone who doesn't want to understand. Someone stuck in the past, unwilling to adapt. That image may not be who you are, but it becomes a version they experience. So what's the alternative? Curiosity, empathy. Ask why they value what they do. Ask how they see the world and really listen without preparing a rebuttal. You might not agree, but you'll gain insight. Also, look for common ground. You might not like their music, but you can appreciate their creativity. You might not get their slang, but you can admire their drive. Respect opens doors that criticism slams shut. You don't have to pretend to love everything about the younger generation, but you do need to respect that they're here now, carving their own paths, just like we did once. And they need our support more than our scorn. 5. Talking loudly or repeating stories without realizing. As we age, subtle changes in hearing, memory, and social awareness can creep in, and they affect how we communicate. Maybe you don't realize how loud your voice has become. Or maybe you've told the same story 3 times this month, thinking it's the first. These things happen, but over time, they can make people uncomfortable, especially in group settings. Talking loudly can come off as aggressive, even if you're just excited. Repeating stories can seem like you're not listening or not engaging with new topics. Friends and family may begin to avoid long conversations or tune you out altogether. The tricky part is that these habits usually stem from something we can't see: hearing loss, memory changes, or even loneliness. So again, this is about blame. It's about awareness. If you notice people wincing or stepping back when you talk, ask a loved one gently, have I been speaking too loudly lately? Or do I repeat myself sometimes? You might be surprised at their relief that you asked. A hearing test can be transformative. Many people resist them out of pride, but hearing clearly can change the way you experience the world and the way others experience you. As for repeating stories, keep a small journal of your favorite ones. That way, you can choose when to tell them, and you'll know if you've shared them recently. Or preface a story with, Stop me if I've told you this one. It adds humor and self-awareness. People don't expect perfection. They just want to feel like you're present and responsive. When you communicate with intention, people feel safe and heard. These first 5 habits are more common than you might think. We don't pick them up because we're bad people. We pick them up because life is hard, aging is complex, and sometimes we're just doing the best we can with what we have. But with just a little awareness, a little reflection, and a little willingness to shift, these habits can be gently unlearned. And when they are, the result is deeper connection, more warmth, and more joy in your relationships. Because at the heart of it all, what we truly want at any age is to be close to others, to be heard, respected, and loved. And when we let go of the habits that push people away, we make more room for the ones that bring them close. 6. Ignoring others' personal space or boundaries. As we get older, we sometimes become less aware of the subtle social signals around us. Maybe it's because we've grown up in a different era, where things were more tactile, more familiar, or less bound by today's social sensitivities. But times change, and so do the unspoken rules of how we relate physically and emotionally to others. For example, what used to be a harmless pat on the back, a touch on the arm, or a comment about someone's appearance might now come across as intrusive or uncomfortable, especially to younger people or acquaintances. It's not always about intent. It's about how the other person feels. And those feelings matter just as much as our good intentions. The same goes for emotional boundaries. Sometimes we share too much, ask overly personal questions, or push conversations into uncomfortable territory without realizing that we've crossed a line. What feels like connection to us might feel like pressure to someone else. So what's the solution? The first step is to pause and notice. Pay attention to body language. If someone pulls back slightly when you lean in or shifts when you touch their arm, don't take offense. Just take note. Back up a bit. Smile. Let them set the distance. And when it comes to sensitive topics, whether it's a relationship, money, politics, or faith, ask yourself, is this something I want to talk about right now? Or am I bringing it up because I want to say something? Better yet, ask directly. Is it okay if I ask you something personal? Or would you be comfortable if I share a thought on that? These small acts of consent can build massive trust and respect. Respecting boundaries doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It means creating space where people feel safe. And when people feel safe with you, they want to be around you more. 7. Using outdated or offensive terms without realizing. Language evolves. And sometimes we don't realize how fast it's happening or how much weight our words can carry. You might say something you've used for decades, thinking it's innocent or even affectionate, only to discover that it's now considered inappropriate or offensive. It can feel confusing, frustrating, even unfair. But here's the truth. Words matter. And more importantly, how they make others feel matters even more. Sometimes, the terms that were once common have taken on new meanings. Phrases related to race, gender, sexuality, disability, or mental health that once went unquestioned are now seen in a different light. And for good reason. We live in a time when people are finally being heard and respected for who they truly are. And language plays a big part in that recognition. That doesn't mean you're a bad person for using old terms. It means you're human. But it also means that growth is possible. Instead of getting defensive or saying, "That's just how I talk," try saying, "Thanks for letting me know. I didn't realize that word was hurtful today." That simple response shows humility and care. If you're unsure about a word, look it up. Ask someone younger you trust. Or say, "I'm not sure the right word to use. Can you help me understand?" Most people will appreciate the effort. They don't expect you to be perfect. They just want to know that you care enough to try. Words have power, and using them with awareness keeps your relationships open, respectful, and evolving. When people see you learning, they don't focus on your mistakes. They admire your growth. 8. Being inflexible or dismissive of new ideas or technologies. Let's be honest. Technology is changing fast. really fast. And for many of us, it can feel overwhelming, unnecessary, or even a little ridiculous. Voice assistants, online banking, self-checkout, smart homes, crypto, AI. The list goes on. It's tempting to shrug it all off with a "not for me" or "this is nonsense." But here's the danger. When we dismiss new ideas or innovations outright, we're not just opting out. We're sending a message that we're not willing to grow, adapt, or listen. And that can isolate us from the people we love. Think of your children or grandchildren. Technology is their world. And when we scoff at it or resist learning it, we're not just rejecting the tools. They may feel like we're rejecting their reality. That doesn't mean you have to embrace everything, but it does mean staying open. You don't have to love texting or social media or streaming services, but learning just a little, enough to participate, keeps you in the loop and shows that you're engaged. Instead of saying, "I'm too old for this," try saying, "I've never used this before. Can you show me?" Let them teach you. Laugh at the hiccups. Stay curious. Flexibility isn't just about apps and gadgets. It's about mindset. It's about being willing to see the world through new eyes and not insisting that your way is the only way. And the beautiful thing is, when younger people see that you're open-minded, they lean in. They ask your opinion. They want to share. They feel safe bringing their world to you. You don't need to master the latest trends. Just stay open to the idea that there's more than one way to live a good life. When you stay flexible, you stay relevant and deeply connected. 9. Expecting special treatment due to age alone. There's something powerful about reaching your later years. You've lived, loved, failed, succeeded, and endured, and that deserves respect. It's a beautiful part of life's arc. But here's where it gets tricky. When we begin to expect special treatment just because we've gotten older, that expectation can quietly push others away. You might see it in subtle ways. Expecting people to agree with you without challenge, wanting to skip lines, dismissing others' opinions as less valid, or feeling entitled to attention or deference. The problem isn't in being treated with respect. That's wonderful, and you've earned it. The problem is when we demand it or use age as a badge that excuses bad behavior. Respect is a two-way street. And in today's world, people of all ages are trying to find their place, make a difference, and be heard. When we insist on special status without humility, it creates distance instead of closeness. So how do you find a balance? Start with gratitude. When someone offers you their seat, helps with your bags, or asks for your advice, thank them. Don't act as if it's owed. Let appreciation become your default response. And when you're in a disagreement, lead with respect. Say things like, "That's an interesting point. I hadn't considered that." Even if you don't fully agree, it shows openness and strength. Most of all, model the kind of respect you want to receive. Show up on time. Listen fully. Apologize when necessary. Remember names. Smile. When people see that your age brings grace, not entitlement, they naturally lean in. You won't need to ask for respect. It will surround you. 10. Dwelling on regrets or the good old days to the point of alienation. Memory is a powerful thing. As we get older, it's natural to revisit the past. Our childhood, our early loves, our golden decades. And yes, it's true. There's something special about the way things used to be. Simpler, maybe slower, more grounded. But when our conversations and thoughts are always anchored in the past, especially in a tone of regret or longing, we risk alienating the people around us. Younger friends or family members begin to feel like they're being compared to a time they can never measure up to. Others might feel helpless hearing the same regrets replayed again and again, with no sign of resolution. It can become emotionally exhausting for them and for us. The past has value, but the present has power. When we constantly say things like, "Things were better back then," or "I wish I'd done this differently," we can unintentionally paint our lives as finished stories rather than unfolding ones. We stop inspiring and start grieving out loud. So it's a shift, gratitude, presence, and forward movement. Instead of saying, I should have taken that chance, say, I'm proud I've learned from that, and I still have time to create something meaningful. Instead of, young people don't know what they're doing, say, it's exciting to see how they're changing the world. I wonder what I can learn from them. And yes, share your memories, but let them be windows, not anchors. Bring up a story from the past, then tie it to something in the present. Back when I started working, things were different, but it's wild to see how things have evolved. How do you navigate work now? Your past is a treasure, but your presence is a gift, and your ability to inspire others doesn't diminish with age. It deepens. When you speak with hope and wisdom, people of all generations are drawn to you, not out of obligation, but out of admiration. These 5 habits, like the ones we covered earlier, aren't about blame. They're about awareness. Every single one of them is fixable. Gently, quietly, powerfully. Because here's the secret. Most people want to stay close to you. They want to learn from you, laugh with you, and feel connected. But if something about your behavior makes it hard, they'll pull away. Not because they don't care, but because they don't know how to stay. By reflecting on these habits and making small, heartfelt changes, you're doing something remarkable. You're inviting others back into your orbit, and you're showing them what real wisdom looks like. Not perfection, not pride, but the courage to keep growing. Because no matter your age, self-awareness is attractive. Openness is magnetic. Humility is powerful. And the most beautiful part, the more you grow, the more others do too, simply by watching you. Growing older is a privilege denied to many. That's something we don't say often enough. It's easy to get caught up in what we've lost. Our youth, our speed, our memory, our former selves. But let's take a step back and realize, reaching your 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond is not the end of the story. It's a whole new chapter. And the beauty of this chapter lies not just in what we do, but how we choose to show up in the world. Let's revisit something important. This entire conversation hasn't been about shame or judgment. It's been about gentle awareness. These habits we've explored, talking over others, being overly critical, resisting new ideas, expecting special treatment, or revisiting the past too often. They're not character flaws. They're human patterns. Common ones, understandable ones, and most importantly, changeable ones. They're easy traps to fall into because they often come from very natural places. A desire to connect, to feel seen, to share wisdom, to protect what we love. But even the best intentions can have unintended consequences. And the beauty of self-awareness is that it gives us the power to see ourselves clearly, to catch these habits before they quietly distance us from the people we love. The truth is, no one outgrows a need for connection. No one ever reaches a point in life where kindness, curiosity, and humility stop matching. These are ageless virtues. And in fact, the older we get, the more powerful these qualities become. Let's take a moment and think about what it really means to age well. It's not about pretending we're still young. It's not about chasing every trend or hiding every wrinkle. Aging well is about growing inwardly even as our bodies slow down. It's about deepening relationships, sharpening awareness, and living with quiet integrity. It's about becoming someone people turn to, not just out of respect for our years, but out of admiration for our wisdom, warmth, and grace. Because let's face it, there are enough loud voices in the world. There's enough division, criticism, and posturing. What people really crave at any age is presence. They want to feel heard. They want to feel safe. They want to be around someone who listens more than they lecture, who asks instead of assumes, who reflects instead of reacts. And you have the chance to be that person. Every time you choose to listen with patience instead of interrupting, you teach respect. Every time you make space for others' ideas, even if you don't agree, you model open-mindedness. Every time you update your language, embrace new tools, or apologize for a slip-up, you show humility. And every time you soften your tone or ask a question instead of delivering a judgment, you create connection. That's the kind of power we carry as we age, not the power of control or dominance, but the power of influence. And influence, when wielded with love, has a capacity to shape entire generations. There's a quiet dignity in growth, especially later in life. Because let's be honest, most people assume that once we reach a certain age, we're set in our ways, that we can't change, that we won't. But imagine the impact of surprising them, of showing up differently, of learning something new, not in spite of your age, but because of it. Growth doesn't stop with age. If anything, it becomes richer, more meaningful, more courageous. Because choosing to change when you don't have to, that's powerful. That's inspiring. That's the kind of legacy that ripples outward. You see, legacy isn't just what you leave behind when you're gone. It's what you give people while you're still here. It's the way you treat the waiter, the way you speak to your grown children, the way you respond to discomfort or correct a mistake or comfort a friend. Those are the moments people remember. Those are the lessons that outlast our lifetimes. And if you recognize yourself in even one of the habits we talk about today, good. That's not a failure. That's a gift, because it means you're awake. You're aware. You're still learning. Awareness is the first step to transformation. And transformation is what keeps us alive, not just biologically, but emotionally, spiritually, socially. When you choose to grow, you aren't just fixing a habit. You're rewriting your story. You're creating a new kind of presence, one that draws people in rather than pushing them away. And you don't need to overhaul your personality to do that. These changes are subtle. They're quiet, but they're powerful. Let's say you've struggled with being overly critical of younger generations. You can soften your tone, ask more questions, show curiosity about their world. Instead of saying, "Back in my day," you can say, "That's interesting. How did you come to see it that way?" That one shift can transform a conversation. Or maybe you've been resistant to technology. You can try learning one new app, not because it's trendy, but because it helps you stay connected to your grandkids or book club. That willingness communicates something far beyond tech savvy. It says, "I care enough to meet you where you are." Maybe you caught yourself interrupting others or turning conversations toward yourself. You can begin practicing the art of pausing. Let others finish. Reflect before you speak. Watch what happens when you let silence breathe. People will feel more seen, and so will you. And if personal hygiene or self-care has slipped due to fatigue or depression, give yourself grace, not guilt. Start small. Shower, shave, freshen up. Not for vanity, but for vitality. When you take care of your appearance, it tells the world, I still value myself and those around me. And if you found yourself stuck in regret or longing for the good old days, try writing down 3 things you're grateful for today. Focus on what's still possible, still beautiful, still unfolding. Because here's something many people forget. Every age has something to offer. Every season of life has wisdom, strength, and growth. You don't lose value as you get older. You gain a different kind of power. But that power only blossoms when paired with humility. And that's the sweet spot we're aiming for. Wise enough to guide, humble enough to learn. Now let's talk about what kind of person you want to be remembered as. Not in some grand legacy sense, but in the day-to-day. When people think of you, what do you want them to feel? Do you want them to say, "They always made me feel heard"? They were curious about my life, even when they didn't understand it. They gave advice only when I asked, but when they did, it was gold. They never made me feel small, even when I messed up. That kind of person is magnetic. That kind of elder becomes a pillar in their community, not out of force, but out of presence. And presence is built on self-awareness, kindness, and the courage to grow. So if you take one thing from today's conversation, let it be this. It's never too late. Never too late to change. Never too late to listen. Never too late to apologize. Never too late to learn. Never too late to reconnect. Never too late to become someone who brings people closer, not pushes them away. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. It's about saying, I want to be the kind of person others feel safe around. The kind of person who builds bridges, not walls. The kind of person who keeps evolving, even at 70, 80, 90. And here's the truth. When people see that in you, they don't just respect your years. They cherish your presence. They want to learn from you, be around you, trust you, because your willingness to grow makes you timeless. So wherever you are on your journey, whether you're already self-aware or just beginning to reflect, know this: you're not alone. So many of us are walking this path, quietly, courageously, choosing to do better, be better, connect better. And it starts with awareness, then a little curiosity, then a small change. And before you know it, you've transformed not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. You're not here to fade. You're here to shine with wisdom. You're not here to be feared. You're here to be felt with love. You're not here to be bitter. You're here to be better. And better doesn't mean louder, smarter, or righter. Better means more open, more kind, more present. So here's your next step. Pick one habit that resonated most. One shift you can start practicing today. Maybe it's listening more. Maybe it's learning something new. Maybe it's smiling first. Maybe it's just saying, I see that now. Because the smallest changes often lead to the biggest transformations. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which habit surprised you most? Which one hit close to home? Which one have you already worked on? And what changed when you did? Drop it in the comments below. Let's create a community of growth, not shame. Let's share stories, not judgments. Let's help each other stay sharp, kind, and deeply connected. And if this message resonated with you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who might need a gentle nudge today. You're not too old. You're not too late. You're exactly where you need to be, to grow, to connect, to thrive. Because kindness is timeless. Curiosity is ageless. And humility, that never goes out of style.